Hey, it's Emma Lockhart. I'm on the NATI Board of Directors, and I'm here today with our Secretary, Angie Monterroso. And so we're going to ask her a few questions and get to know her. So my first question is, give us your name or your full name, because I keep wanting to call you by your former name. That's how I met you and I've known you. So your
Yeah.
name, your current job or jobs, the languages that you work in. Do you work as an interpreter, translator, or both, or what's your position?
Okay, so yeah, I used to be Keller. I still get called Keller, so it's totally fine. And I haven't even changed my work email, so. But Angie Monterroso is my married name. Used to be Angie Keller. I actually work at UNK. I am a senior lecturer of Spanish and translation and interpretation. So the question, um, do you work as a translator and interpreter? I don't do a lot of translating or interpreting work. Most of the interpreting I do a little on the side, especially for like the YRTC. Translating, I do a lot in the classroom. We take on community projects. So,
Oh,
of course, I have to do most of the editing. So
mm,
it's a good practice for me. So that
nice.
is it's mostly educating is what I do right now. So
And so UNK, that's University of Nebraska Kearney, just for those who
yes.
watch this
Yep.
and don't know.
Yep.
Um,
University of Nebraska.
also went to UNK. That's how we met each other. We were in the same classes for the Spanish interpretation translation, but I'll get into that when I do my interview. Um,
Yeah.
so my next question is, why did you join the NATI board and when did you join?
I've been on the board about a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. The time just flies. I think it's been a year,
Yeah,
maybe a little over a year.
yeah,
Um, I joined, I just thought it was time to get more involved. I really, teaching translation and interpretation, you really start becoming very passionate about advocating for the profession because I'm telling my students day in and day out that this profession has value. They have value. Don't devalue the profession. So I just thought I should get involved. The conferences are awesome. I always love going to the NATI conferences, so I thought it was just time to do my part.
great. Yeah. And so how long have you been teaching at UNK? And then, looking at your previous experience of doing interpreting and translating, how long have you been doing that? Because some people, they're born into it because of their family
Yeah.
circumstances.
Okay, so I'm really bad at dates, but I made an effort to remember. My my real experience with interpreting began like as a profession, um, I don't even know. I thought I had it figured out. I started interpreting in a dental office actually while I think I was still working on my undergrad at UNK. Um, and my undergrad was in Spanish and Spanish and translation, and I graduated with that in 2010. So maybe 2008, somewhere around there, I started interpreting at a dental clinic. So that was really good experience. And I did that all while working on my undergrad. And then as soon as I graduated, I think there was a year in between then, and then I started teaching as the GA for the Spanish department at UNK. So then that was around 2013 is when I graduated with my master's, and I had been teaching as the GA, and then they hired me full time. So that's when the teaching began. I'd say 2014, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but as far as actual interpreting, I would say, yeah, somewhere around 2008 is when that started.
So,
So again, though, I mean, you have to really work on your language skills before you're ready.
and that was going to be one of my questions. It's not included in the list, but it is always interesting to hear what made you begin to learn Spanish. How did it all start?
It all started like it does for so many with a cute guy. Didn't speak English, and let me tell you, he was cute. So I started learning Spanish to be able to communicate with him,
So
and that was
that,
back.
when was that?
I was 21.
Okay.
I don't want to. I don't care. I can give my age. So we're looking at 20 years at least that I've been working on the language. And I remember when I went to UNK, sitting. I mean, that's after I went back when I was 26 or so. So we're looking like I'd already been working on the language outside of the classroom for 5, 6 years. And I mean, really spending a lot of time speaking Spanish with my boyfriend, his family. And so when I was in the classroom with other students that could speak Spanish, I was like, how did these kids learn Spanish just from the classroom? I was always impressed with them because I couldn't imagine just learning from only learning in the classroom. I had so much outside input.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I got interested. And
Nice.
really the only reason I went back to school, because I actually went to college for like a year and a half right out of high school and dropped out,
Mm-hmm.
was I'd had my daughter and I just thought she needed to see a mother with a college education. And so I just chose Spanish because it's what I enjoyed.
That's good.
I didn't have any dreams or a career plan. I just thought I'm going to finish my degree and I love Spanish, so I'm going to go
You're
back for
good at it, so why not?
Hey, it's worked. I do. It's a passion. I love it. I love languages.
You
So
are, I can tell. That's great. So then what was the biggest lesson you've learned so far through either interpreting translation experience or through your role as an educator in the field at UNK?
this is a tough one because there are so many lessons because it's a career where you're working with people. It's not a desk, it's not a computer. Like you are interacting with human lives.
Yes.
So many lessons to be learned. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned and I try to impart to my students is nobody's born, okay, maybe there's a handful of people that are born brilliant, they can interpret. It's like it's a skill that grows and improves. It's like a fine wine or a cheese, right? It gets better with age. I mean, I want to find a really old translator and say, is there a point where you go sour? Is there a point where you're moldy and you can't do it anymore? Because from what I see, you just get better and better and better over time. And oftentimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, not make mistakes,
Yeah.
or just have all the vocabulary at our fingertips. And it's just not realistic. It's a profession that you almost need to jump into with a basic set of skills and just grow as you grow.
Yes, that's
I think
great.
that's the biggest lesson because I think some people don't want to go into this profession or they just feel intimidated by it. And it makes me sad that brilliant people with so much potential will think they're not good enough when it's just something that you just get better the more you work in the profession.
So true. So true. So my next question is, do you have maybe a favorite moment or a funny story that occurred while you were interpreting or translating, or again, as an educator at UNK? Like something that's, it comes to your mind quickly and you're like, oh my gosh, this was such a unforgettable moment, funny wise or just
There's
emotional.
a few. I think as any interpreter or translator, especially somebody that's non-native or a non-heritage learner, like those that are born in a family that speaks the language or somebody born in a foreign country, they have a completely different experience than those of us that have to learn the language from the ground up. And I just remember the day when I was no longer scared to answer the phone and find a Spanish speaking person on the other end at the dentist office. Because you're always like, can I do this? Okay, I got this, I can do this. But I just also remember the moments when I could follow a complete conversation that a native speaker was having and I didn't get lost. I mean, those are just golden moments that somebody, not everyone's gonna understand.
I like got chills because I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I remember the time a Cuban, a Cubano called the dentist office and was just yelling at me. He was so angry. That was a moment too of thinking, I just remember that like, oh my goodness, how could anybody understand somebody that speaks this quickly? Just little memories like that. But some of the memories are more, I don't know, just especially interpreting at the YRTC. I had some, oh, what would you say, stereotypical ideas or had stereotypes of boys out there before going
Like
in.
prejudice, like an internal
Yes.
prejudice, that like it's going to be this way because of the
And I
setting
think,
and the people that are I'm going to be interacting with. Yeah.
yeah, and I think a lot of us that grew up in Kearney or around Kearney, you get this negative attitude to the kids out there. But once you go on the campus and you interact with those boys and you hear what they've been through, that was some of the most difficult interpreting I've ever had to do. Yeah, so there's just so many memories that because it with people. this is a bridge to communication. It's such an important job that there's so many memories. So yeah.
So my last question is, do you have any advice for someone who wants to become an interpreter or translator, or maybe someone who's working in the industry right now?
I don't think I have a single piece of advice for somebody working in the industry. I need to get advice from them. So please email me with any advice you have, because I need to pass it on to my students. But anybody that's wanting to get in, I think it's mostly just working on your skills all the time. The input you can get anywhere. Whatever it is you enjoy, do it in your language pair. So if it's Spanish, whatever you can do to get input, do that. It will never, there's never any reason that it won't help you out. And then not to be intimidated and to be willing to just be humble and realize you're going to make mistakes, but that doesn't mean you can't interpret and translate. There are certain areas, like we can't go to court and go screwing things up or do bad translations. I mean, there's a limit, but part of the skills is knowing who to go to for help. Just because I translate something doesn't mean I can't have a native speaker read it over for me and find any mistakes. And then when you're ready at the court, you'll always know when you don't know something, and there's an appropriate time to just recognize that. So it's always okay not to know something. It's just not okay not to admit it. So you need to stay humble and just go for it.
So true. Very good. All right. Well, thank you for your time and answering the questions. We'll be posting more videos coming up soon with other NATI board interviews so you can get to know the board. If you have questions that you think should be included in this list of questions, you can comment below or you can send an email to info@natihq.org. And be sure to follow us on social media. We have our YouTube channel, Facebook. We send out our email blast to those who are NATI members, and we'll keep you updated on conference updates because we do have some conference updates. We just decided them yesterday. Excited to announce. Won't say anything yet, but yeah. Thanks for watching and have a great day.